everybody, and welcome to the show. I'm James, that's Katie, and of course that makes this episode 57 of the Circles and Squares PlayStation Podcast Experience. And we're here again to talk about some more video games, as we always are. But of course, before we do, Kate, I must ask, how are you on this fantastic Sunday evening?
You know what? I'm doing great. It's been a nice weekend. It stopped raining here, in the middle of June, so that's
Finally.
always nice. Yeah, so things are good. I put on a little spoilers for later. I put on a very special shirt today, so our YouTube friends can kind of see that's our buddy Serge Tankin right there of System of a Down. And I put this on and I looked at the back. You buy the one with the tour dates, right?
You
Like
do. You
that
always have
is
to get
the
tour
shirt you
dates.
buy at a concert. You got to get the tour dates. And this is 2011. Like, holy shit, was that a long time ago?
I know. One of my biggest regrets of my whole life is not going to that show, because not only did you go, but I also had a whole other set of friends that could have gone as well. They did go as well. And so I had two chances that I missed both on going to see System of a Down. And now I'm just worried I'm never going to get to see them or get a band shirt.
Dude.
So, I mean, you're a double winner.
It was an experience. They were amazing. And you know what? We'll talk about later in the show. You'll get another chance to experience Surge in a little bit of a different way, but
Ooh, okay.
also
A little bit
phenomenal.
of a different way, but you know what? Let's stop the tease right there, and we'll get right into the show. Because of course, one of the things we're talking about today is the Metal Hellsinger demo, a game that we've really been looking forward to playing for quite a while now. I feel like it's been a couple of years, but yeah. So before we talk about that, though, just a run of the show for everyone listening out there. We're gonna have a 2-segment show today, as we usually do. We've got the first half of the show to talk about the games we have been playing, including that demo. And for the second half of the show, we have expanded a listener mail question that we really liked into a full-on segment about creating some Frankenstein games of different parts of other games, and just it's going to be fun. We're going to see what we come up with. So before we get into any of that, though, I just want to remind everybody as well that Summer Game Fest has been going on, and there has been a lot of game announcements. Maybe less than some other summers, but there's still been a ton of stuff going on. And we did a big recap on Summer Games Fest and everything announced last week on our news show, so feel free to go check that one out if you wanted to catch up on the announcements from the week, see what we thought about them. That's all on our channel over on our last episode. We would also love to hear from you if you wanted to write into us at circlesandsquarespod@gmail.com. If you wanted to tell us what your favorite announcements from Summer Games Fest were, let us know.
Tell us about how much more kick-ass the Xbox Bethesda showcase was, and that Silk Song is real.
It's real. Oh my God. Can you believe
It's
it?
real.
I mean, within the next 12 months, apparently, too.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, hopefully it hits that. We will see. But yeah, check out our last episode for all that talk. And for now, let's get right into talking about what if Doom met a rhythm game at a bar one night and went home. And, 6 months, 9 months later, a game comes out called Metal Hellsinger. And that's what we played the demo for, Kate. So why don't you give us a lay of the land? What exactly is this? And what did you overall think of the demo?
This game is absolutely kick-ass. It is exactly how you describe it. It is a Doom shooter. It's like, you're slaying demons. It's very Doom aesthetic. But the secret sauce to this game is that it's secretly a rhythm game. So you listen to like the most stacked metal soundtrack, like bigger than I could have ever imagined my dreams to be for this game. And you play along to it and you're going around shooting these demons and you have to shoot on beat to the music. And holy fuck, like I sat down to play this game. I knew I was excited about it. I'm gonna say the demo maybe took about like half an hour, maybe 40
Yeah, I think I
minutes
played for about,
at most.
25 minutes, maybe something like
25
that.
minutes, yeah, half hour. And I had the biggest smile on my face the entire time. Like, and I'm not a first person shooter person. Like, I guess if I was to pick up one, something like Doom probably appeals to me the most, but I would never typically sit down with that style or like that genre of game. But this is a day one purchase. I'm picking it up. Like, I'm so stoked for September 15th when this is going to release.
Yeah, I was pretty impressed too. I mean, listeners would know, I think over the last, couple of years, we've made it pretty clear we're pretty big metal fans. And look at the list of people they have. They have Burial at Night, Dissolution. I don't know Dissolution, but The Devastation, Through You, No Tomorrow.
Oh, so those
Those are the songs. Yeah,
titles.
right.
Yeah, and then so they have, yes, the soundtrack is all original music, which is smart because they wanted obviously to like marry the gameplay perfectly, and so to have like the right kind of beats for you to be able to time your shots is important. But then they got the
Like
cast of
A-list
like
people.
A-list like metal bands and like especially the singers to come into the lyrics. So like Ginger's there, Soilwork, Trivium, System, Lamb of God,
I
Arch
always forget
Enemy is
Lamb of God's
here.
even
Like
in there too. Like,
yeah,
man,
Lamb of God's in here.
it's
So
crazy. And then they announced Surge so late too. Like he definitely is the headliner, at least in terms of like name recognition as a person, I think. Um, but yeah,
because yeah,
it
he
was amazing.
System is obviously a huge band, and Surge has done a lot of solo work as well, and so he's just got such distinct vocals.
Hmm.
So he wasn't in the demo. We got Arc Enemy in the demo, and I think Dark Tranquillity was the
Yeah,
other
that was the
band.
other one.
Showed off 2 tracks, but which were, like, quite distinct, but both worked extremely well.
It
Um
works perfectly. Like starting the demo off, you get a little bit of a tutorial, and then it kind of comes in, and the game starts, and you have like the instruments are kind of basic, right? It's kind of like the bass and the guitar and some kind of light drums. And then as you go through, and if you hit more and more shots on the beat, and you start to build up that combo meter, and you hit like the next threshold of your points multiplier, because it is based a lot on high score, at least for the demo. But the higher your multiplier gets, the music starts to swell up,
Mhm.
and just instruments get added in. And then when you hit that 16 times multiplier, which is the highest it goes, the vocals come in, and it's just like, oh my God, you get in the zone. I was like, originally, it's a little tough originally to kind of get used to shooting on a beat. But I found myself, you kind of get, past that original couple minutes of getting used to the game. And then you start to groove like with the music. And then I'm tapping my foot, and all of a sudden I'm like click tap, like tapping my foot, clicking my mouse at the same time. And it was a blast all the way through. I thoroughly enjoyed the demo.
Exactly my experience as well. Like, I felt like I got so into it, like, because it shows you, it's got a nice little reticle in the middle, where, like, it shows you where you're aiming, but also you can see, the beat coming. So it's not like Guitar Hero where you have, like, this massive track, but it does have a little visual to show you, like, when the beat lines up with where to shoot. And so I found when I first started, I was kind of watching that and,
Hmm.
like, timing it almost more to the visual. But about 10 minutes into playing, I was ignoring that completely, and I wasn't even glancing at it, and I was just, like, totally in the zone, shooting to the beat, and so it's one of those games where, like, at first, yeah, it's kind of overwhelming, but I could see, like, after having this game in your hands for a couple hours, you just are like, the rest of the world doesn't exist, and you're so focused and in the zone, and it's just man, when those lyrics kick in, like, there are, like, a handful of times I could count, if that, where I felt that badass playing a video game before.
Yeah, seriously, seriously. It is a bit of like rubbing your head and patting your stomach or whatever at the same time. Like, because I mean,
Mhm.
we don't play a lot of shooters, but we played enough. Like, and the way you would engage in combat in a regular shooter, like I had to catch myself a couple times at the start, sort of getting overwhelmed with enemies and sort of ignoring the beat and just worrying about killing them. But then
Mhm.
no, the point of the game like, is hitting the beat and getting those good shots and working that meter up. And so once you kind of get used to the fact that no, you do need to really pay attention to it, it really just clicks. I do wish that the reticle, like the arrows that kind of show you, they're kind of like square brackets almost on either side of the targeting system, but I wish they were almost a little bit more visually distinct. And not that I want them to be these big distracting things, distracting your eye from the enemies or what's going on the screen, but at the same time they were a little hard to see at points, and like they're very thin in a way where when you
Mhm.
lose the beat for a second, you're trying to catch up and like refine your rhythm. I found it a little tougher than it maybe could have been if it was a little bit more visually distinct. But that's like such a nitpick, and after only playing for the length of the demo, I'm sure that's something when you play for an hour or two, if you get the game, it would be like a non-factor.
Yeah, I'm sure the compromise there is, like, they want it to be subtle because they don't want you to look at it. It's just there for, like, if you need a quick, like, to orientate yourself or, like, when you're first starting, just to kinda, like, get on track. But I think very much the idea is that, like, you're just so in the rhythm and, like, you just if you lose the beat, then you stop and listen for a second, you pick it up, and I think one of the things that I found is gonna be tough is, like, just making sure you're going, like you almost wanna go slow, like, it's better to miss a couple shots than to shoot off beat, and especially too, like, they give you, I think, 4 different weapons that you get to try out in the demo, and one of them is like a shot, like a heavier gun, and so that one takes some time between shots. So you can't shoot on every beat with that one, unlike some of the faster weapons. And so you actually have to like shoot, wait for the next one. So I found that I could time it with one of the songs that I would shoot on every second beat. And so that
Right.
was kind of cool because it was a very different approach. But I think to speak about the weapons a bit, I think we both were in agreement that our favorites were the dual pistols.
The
They're just
pistols
so
were
badass and
perfect.
like they're fast enough. You shoot every beat basically if you have like the right timing.
Yeah, I think it
And
depends too,
then
like what
what else?
song you do, right? Because
Yeah.
different songs are probably going to have different tempos, and so for the song from the demo, it seemed to fit perfectly with the pistols and just the
Yeah.
exact rate of fire you need.
Yeah, which I'm sure is why they paired those 2 up
Yeah.
together, but absolutely, there's gonna be an element of kinda swapping weapons to fit the songs, or what you're fighting, but the cool thing about the pistols as well that I wasn't expecting is that they have an ammo unlike using the sword. And so you after a certain amount of shots, you have to reload. And then the really cute detail in there is that there's an active reload mechanic where when you're reloading, there will be a timed on one of the beats coming up for you to press the reload button and then you instant reload instead of having to take the time. And I think it also continues to add to your like score multiplier.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that even the downtime of the reload is perfectly timed and you just get in that rhythm and it just felt incredible in the moment where you had it down.
Yeah, I think something clear to point out too that may be a bit confusing for people that haven't seen this game in practice is
Mhm.
unlike other rhythm games like Guitar Hero or whatever you're envisioning, you're not obligated to hit every note. It's perfectly acceptable to miss some of
Mhm.
the beats. Like you're not it's not like notes are coming across or like you're expected to shoot. It's just that you want to
Yeah.
shoot at those times to build the multiplier. So that it works really
Mhm.
well. And to get back to the weapons though, so you had the pistol and the shotgun, which we're talking about. The sword is like the melee weapon that you get, pretty self-explanatory. And then the other weapon that you get is, I guess it's like a magic skull that shoots fireballs. So I mean that's pretty cool. And the thing about the skull too is that it's the only weapon, at least as far as I could tell, where if you shoot it on beat, even if you're not hitting an enemy, you're still able to maintain your score multiplier. So it's almost like when you're traveling through the level and you don't want to, go from 16 back down to 8 times and lose that level of the music. You want to always be pulling out the skull so you can keep shooting and just maintain your level of the music. I don't know why they make only that one weapon like that. Like that was a curious choice because you're just shooting at nothing, right? Like I would prefer to be able to keep my sword out, but I'm sure they have a reason for that too. And I'm also really excited to see what other weapons. I don't know if they've announced kind of the whole arsenal of what you get, but I'm sure there's more than 4 weapons. Doom is always known for having some, you know, interesting weapon choices, and they always have like the BFG rocket launcher at the end. And so I'm interested to see, like, are you going to get some kind of rocket launcher for Metal Hellsinger?
I think in the trailer we've seen scythes is was one
Mm.
other weapon I recall. So like there's definitely gonna be more, but I just think it's so like the foundation of this game is such a good idea and just how it feels is phenomenal. And so like I could play the whole game with just the skull head and nothing else and I
Hmm.
would have a great time. But of course like yeah, I'm sure there's going to be crazy things and some like big boss fights and
Sure,
it'll
yeah.
get a little outrageous. And it even seems like there's a little bit of a story going on. How
Yeah, there's
much depth
narration
that
and
will
stuff
get is
too. Like it's
unclear.
it's kind of funny. Like the
Um,
demon narrating the story
yeah.
seems to have a Western accent, like a
Yeah,
cowboy.
he's like a cowboy.
It's kind of
Was not
interesting. I
expecting
mean,
that.
yeah, a little unexpected, but I mean, I guess it's better than the generic like, "Oh, I'm a demon," like like that kind of gravelly thing. It was cool. I mean, so you're gonna pick this up day one.
I am absolutely picking this game up day one. I think part of the boon to me is that it's just like it's unique within the genre for having the rhythm and the music spin. But for me, it's also a genre I never visit. So it's got that double buff of being like
Double buff.
extremely fresh. Yeah. It's like extremely fresh for me. And so I love the idea of like just having more variety because I tend to sort of play a lot of the same kind of stuff. And so this had me just like smiling from ear to ear in the sense of like this is so new, so exciting, and like I could see myself like coming home every day and being like, I just want to play Metal Hellsinger, like goodbye friends. Like it's so cool. And
Right.
I just the soundtrack, like you got some of my very favorite bands on here, like what the second Ginger comes on, I'm gonna lose my shit. It's gonna
Yeah.
be awesome.
That's really cool. Yeah, I'm in
So
the same boat. I think I'm maybe slightly less interested in picking it up than you are. I think that there's a big part of me that would be maybe satisfied like buying the soundtrack to this game and missing out on the gameplay and just, enjoying the music. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. I'd like to play this as well, especially for the show. It's always fun when we play the same thing and can kind of have that dual perspective on it. So
mhm.
maybe we'll close off our Metal Hellsinger for now, and I'm sure we'll talk about it very soon
Right, well, we'll
upon
say
the real
goodbye on
release.
it, but just one little detail. When you quit the game, I don't know if you were, like, paying
Oh
enough
yeah,
attention, but, like, he goes in the menu and he, like, flashes the, like, rock sign, he's like, "Goodbye," and he
yeah.
flies off, and those tiny little details just have me cracking up, like, it's not taking itself too seriously, this game, but it's also still badass.
It makes me happy that someone's job was to like animate that for a week or whatever
Yeah, they were like,
on
"Fuck
there.
yeah, let's
Awesome.
go."
Metal Hellsinger. Everyone check it out. Everyone go play the demo because it
Yeah,
is a good
no,
time.
it's
It's a
free,
good
and it's,
time.
like, half an hour. Just go do
Yeah.
it, just go do it.
Speaking of games we played for about half an hour, we for PlayStation Plus this month, we got together and decided we were going to check out Nickelodeon All Stars Brawl, because we'd already played God of War. We've talked about that game a lot, and so All Stars Brawl. I mean, Smash Bros. Clone. Of course, we were going to get together and check this one out just for an evening. So we did just that, and yeah, Smash Bros. Clone. Great way to describe this game because it is certainly very alike Smash Bros. I think my overall impression, tell me if you thought differently, was, I mean, if you like Smash Bros. And you don't all like hate Nickelodeon characters, you'll have fun playing this. Like it is, it's familiar. The controls are a little different. We can talk about that if we want, but it's generally Smash Bros. It's just a lot less tight of an experience in terms of like the character controls and the smoothness of the moves, stuff like that. So to me, it was pretty much exactly what I expected.
Yeah, I agree. I think I kinda came into the expectations of, like, it's not gonna be a good game, but it's gonna be a fun game. And that's kinda where I've landed on, like, I think this game is a lot of fun to get together with some friends, especially if you're familiar with the characters or with Smash Bros. And, like, it's just silly to see, like, fucking, like, Reptar from Rugrats beating up Cat Dog, and then, like,
Yeah.
like, Garfield's here, and Nigel Thornberry, and, like, then you're a Ninja Turtle, and, like, it's just fun and silly and cool, and I could see, like, having a couple drinks and, playing a night of this here and there.
Yeah, Nigel
But it
Thornberry for sure was like a
he
standout.
was so weird. He was so weird. But yeah, it definitely is not like a game that I could see anyone playing competitively like Smash. Like it doesn't have that angle. It doesn't feel fantastic to control. And it's just a little bit it's lacking that like polish. And it feels more like a joke game versus Smash being like a legitimate game with all the character aspects.
Sure, yeah. I think, I mean, to some extent there's other games like this too, and I mean, holding them all to the exact standard of Smash Bros, which is like the best-selling fighting game. It's
Yeah.
such a tried and true formula at this point of like, of course it's not going to match that. I think one area where it's just kind of weird and that really was hard for me coming from Smash. I think it was the control scheme, and you can't edit the controls to be fair, but we just didn't go through the whole process of that to play for a little bit. But it was just sort of strange, like the with Smash, I know you have kind of like your A and B button, right? And you do your smash attacks, but in this game you have light and heavy attacks and then like special attacks for your character. And so trying to pull off the same moves as Smash Bros, but with the different like heavy light attack division was, it took me like probably the first two or three matches to really feel like, okay, I understand where this is going now. And then the special moves
Yeah,
are
it
very
was
similar to like the B button with your recovery moves and all
yeah.
that.
It was kind of as if, like, the B would have its own button and that was the same, but then for your, like, neutrals and for A, instead of having, like, just regular attacks and then having the smash attacks that you charge up, it was just, "Here's light attack, and then here's heavy attack," which is as if you charge up a smash, they're slower and stronger, but it's its own button now, so, like, I don't think that's a bad system, but yeah, coming from Smash, it's like it's just so ingrained in your mind once you've played a lot that it's second nature. And the other thing that tripped me out, which again is not the game's fault, and I could have changed it, but I always jump with like the button that's to the left, I guess. Um, And so like you jump is only on the top. And so I never use that button because normally in Smash you have 2 jump buttons. And
Hmm.
so the jump is on the button that I don't use, and so that was kind of weird to get used to as well.
Yeah, it was. I
But
mean, like we said, you can edit the controls, but it's a little bit of a different setup. There's also like the blocking works a lot differently, and I mean, there's a few other
the grab
distinctions. The grab, yeah, the
the
grab is
grabbing.
hilarious.
So the grab in this one, instead of like picking the character up and like it being an attack, you just lift them up and like nothing happens. And then you just like kind of carry them around for a little bit and then you can choose to do an attack to throw them so that it's just not instant. So you have that weird downtime where you're just like kind of holding them and like some of the characters have the funniest like poses they do during that, like Cora, because she's like obviously like really strong character, right? And Cora's very physically fit. She just does this like intense power squat. And she's like holding like we had like Nigel Thornberry, like he's
Nigel
struggling trying to
Thornberry had
grab
like a one-handed pickup. I'm pretty
this
sure
one
he's just
hand.
doing this.
Like
Yeah,
that's
it was
right.
something else. It was cool.
But
I think something to mention here is the roster. Like, I think they did a pretty interesting job with the roster. Now, I'm not a huge Nickelodeon expert or anything like that, but I mean, they have a pretty star-studded is the wrong word, pretty extensive cast, I would say, especially as like a base game launching like 23 characters from 15 different games. I mean, that's not bad. I mean, again, comparing to Smash, obviously it's not a lot, but Smash is ridiculous and has the most insane roster of all time. So this is pretty good. There's a decent distribution, I guess. It's kind of heavy in the Ninja Turtles and the SpongeBob's, I guess. But there's also some characters like from Real Monsters called Oblina, which I mean, I don't know what that is. Jimmy Neutron apparently has a character named Hugh Neutron, but Jimmy's not in the game. So I don't know. I'm just looking at this list. I don't think we saw him.
you neutron.
I don't know. That must be his dad or something, right? I don't know.
Oh, that's his
Yeah.
dad, sure.
But with these characters, I think they did a really good job finding voice actors because we played as we went through this classic mode, I guess, together. We were just alternating the controller and we played as Aang from Avatar: The Last Airbender. And I mean, I've watched a little bit, you've watched a lot more than me, but we were kind of like, "Oh, is that his real voice actor?" Like it was very well done. And we looked it up afterwards and I don't think most of the characters, if not all of them, don't have the real actors, but I mean, they did a good job to find really good impressions of them.
Yeah. It was, yeah, pretty good. And like you said, the cast is great. It's some I feel like there's some weird choices. Just in terms
There
of
is.
like yeah, like you said, like that guy is there from Jimmy Neutron, but like, where's Jimmy? And like, there's a couple weird things like that. Like Hey Arnold's got Helga, but Arnold's not there. So like, it's kind of cool. I think that they didn't just always take like the main character because I think in a lot of times games do. Like in Smash, you always get the like playable character from Fire Emblem, who's always the most boring character. Like no one gives a shit about Byleth.
Right,
But
right.
like there would be like more interesting characters in that game. So it's like maybe they chose them based off of like popularity or like you know maybe like move compatibility. I'm not really sure, but it is kind of cool to see some of those like unusual characters come in.
Yeah, it is. I always appreciate that too because you're right, and I'm sure for people that are, coming at this as, oh, I'm a Nickelodeon fan, not looking for a Smash replacement. Those people would probably be more appreciative of like, the roster than we were because I mean we opened it up and like that character from Monsters or whatever, like I had never seen that guy before. He just looked like a straw with eyes and some funny stripes, and like he was fine. But I'm sure some other people that are, oh, I really grew up with that, or like I remember that show, could be kind of cool. I also think just looking online, like I feel like you and I are a little low on this game compared to the critical consensus because like Push Square, I'm just looking like they're quoted as saying this is the best Super Smash Bros. Clone we've ever played, and so that's pretty nice praise. And I'm trying to think now, like what other clones of Smash are better than this? Because I like this more than PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale. I can tell you that right now. And that's like the PlayStation characters are cool, but that game is just the scoring was so weird. Like I would way rather play this than that.
There. The other thing this game has over Smash is we played an online match. We kind of
Mhm.
just swapped off stocks. We played Shredder, who is actually like a really
He
cool
was good,
character.
powerhouse.
Uh, Shredder was awesome. But we played online in this cool level that was like Big Blue, and everyone was on like buses and shit. But the connection was insanely good, and I know that everyone was kind of like excited, but also laughing about the idea that this game has netcode, which is like what like people are pushing for all fighting games because it's way better for like connectivity and like lack of latency and stuff. So this game has netcode. Smash Online absolutely does not, and it's running on the Nintendo Switch Online. So this game, we like played it and we're like, we got on the match, we're like, that was like perfect, buttery smooth connection. Not even a single second we felt like it dipped. And like you can't necessarily always say that about Smash Online.
You can't say
So
that about Smash almost ever, that you get a flawless match online. Like, it was impressive in this game. You could have probably
yeah.
convinced me that that was a local game, and that any little bits of lag were
Mhm.
because the game's not like perfectly polished, not the other way around.
But yeah, so it's kind of one of those things where like it is a joke game and it's silly and it's intended to kind of be a bit of a laugh. But at the same time, like, they put some really like good work into this game and it is like legitimately a good time.
Totally.
Um I, I don't think I see myself playing it a hell of a lot more aside from like I said before, you have a couple drinks and maybe play with a couple friends. Um but yeah,
Yeah.
it
That's
is
what this
cool
is,
though.
right? That's what this is. And you know what? For people that don't have a Switch and like want to play something sort of like that, if you're like more of a fighting game person, or this isn't that bad. And if they updated it and tightened the controls up a little bit more, added some characters and some stages, it's not as much of a joke game as you would think it is. Um, I'm not endorsing it, saying it's amazing, but I think it has its place, and I'm honestly interested to see like what other people I know would think about this game. The ones that wouldn't just write it off for being funny because it has like, Ren and Stimpy or something in it. But yeah, cool
Characters
game.
to unlock because like we didn't have them all originally. Um,
Yeah,
but like it's like Ren and Stimpy, we know we fought them as an enemy in the game, but we didn't have access to them. So I think the cast is like a bit bigger than it seems at first, whether you unlock and like maybe potential DLC later, but it is kind of cool.
all right. Any final thoughts before I tell you about my last game? No.
Go
Okay.
for it.
All right. So I want to tell everybody quickly about Signs of a Sojourner, which is a game that I played on the wonderful service known as Game Pass. And this is just a very interesting deck building game that I think that, I mean, deck building is a very deceiving way to describe this game. But what it is it's based on conversations. It's a narrative game about communication and relationships with people. And so kind of what it is you're this girl and you live in this town where I guess your mom has been sort of a trader, where she goes around to nearby towns and buys goods and then brings them back and sells them in her store. And through doing this work, your mom has gained all these connections with people in sort of neighboring cities of where you're living, and the people in the city where you're living as well. And then so you kind of get past that part of the start, and then the game turns into you're a little bit older now, and you and your childhood friend are doing this work your mom was doing before. He's running the store, and then my job is to go out or your character's job is to go out and kind of walk that same path of, around to all the different towns in the area and meet up with people and find goods and trade and do all these things. But the way that you go through the game and you meet all the different characters around in the towns, and you build relationships with them, is all done through a card system, which is sort of analogous to communication styles. And so what's really interesting about it is the cards are they look like regular sort of playing cards, and on the left and the right of them, if you can envision it, would be like one of four symbols, or there may be five symbols, like a triangle. And so the point is if you put a card down, it's going to have a triangle on the front, or the left and the right. And then when it's the other person's turn, the idea is that they want to play, their next card has to connect, kind of like you would connect a domino with the same number next to the card with the same symbol that you have. But of course, different people have different decks. So you might have a lot of triangles, but someone you're talking to might have like circles and diamonds. And so what the game is trying to tell you is that your communication style doesn't match with the person you're trying to talk to. Like, you're trying to get along, but you just don't have the cards to line up, because you're playing this game collaboratively with the NPCs. And so as you go, every time you talk to somebody, you actually get to take a card from their deck and add it to yours. But you also then have to replace a card in your deck and take it out, and with a maximum of 10. And so every time you talk, you're kind of cycling it through. And I think it's supposed to be like a metaphor for the more people you meet in your life, you pick up different things from them, different conversation styles, learn to talk to different people, and you become more experienced. So by the end of the game, you kind of have this much more diverse deck of different symbols, and you're able to talk to a lot more different people from speaking to them previously. Like you'll run into a character like, oh, that guy had a lot of diamond cards, can't really talk to him, but then 2 days later you'll come back and you've learned to speak the way that he speaks. It's just a very fascinating sort of comparison to language that works so well.
That sounds really neat. Like, that sounds, like, extremely simple in concept, but I could see it being a very, like, emotionally driven game, especially if the narrative and the writing is good. But that's super cool. Like, I watched a video on it this morning because it's not a game I'd heard of, and, like, yeah, you said, like, the cards are so simple, and it's just it's a really, like, elegant way to match up, like, how a conversation would work, or at least, like, just that principle of, like, yeah, like, like something you might say you find as a joke and someone else might not take it that way, and it's just so like subjective, right, to how people are going to understand what someone else is saying. And even if you mean something a certain way, you're like meaning it in your triangle language. If they're a circle interpretation person, then they're not going to understand your triangle perfectly. And
Hmm,
that is,
hmm.
it's so simple but so neat.
Yeah, it is. And the symbols are supposed to represent like different things, like sentimentality or like aggression or
Mhm.
something like that. But I mean, as playing, I just kind of got focused on the colors and the symbols just because you lose a little bit of that, I think. I mean, this one thing I will say is the story itself, I wouldn't say overly compelled me. Like the character interactions and the individual people you speak to, some of them are interesting, and I wanted to go back and talk to them. But the narrative itself, I think, was not the biggest draw of the game, but just the way you actually built your deck and played the cards was cool. And I mean, there's lots of different things that you end up getting in your deck as well. Like it's not always just the symbols. You also have better cards that you get eventually too. Like there's one called Ramble. Like it'll have two symbols and then have a special ability on the card called Ramble. And what that means is you can then play two cards in a row if you get that. So if you're talking to someone and you don't have a lot of compatible language, you can ramble on about something you know very well and play like two cards in a row with two of your symbols to get to where you need to complete the conversation, for example.
Not always a very good tactic in a real
No.
conversation. If someone doesn't really wanna talk to you, the one of the worst things you can do is just ramble on about some shit they don't care about.
Yeah, no. I mean, you're right. You're right. But for the game, it works very well as a mechanic.
Yeah.
And that's just the thing too. Is like the characters, aside from one or two in the game, they always want to be collaborative with you. Like they're never going to play something that doesn't connect. If they have a card that will match what you've played, they will play it because they want to talk to you too. It's just when it doesn't work, it's because you have an incompatibility with that person at that time. And the other thing that makes the game more challenging as you go is when you're going out and talking to people and gathering resources for the store, you go on these long journeys. I think a sojourn is like a journey, right? Am I getting that right? Whatever it is.
I believe so.
So you're gone for like multiple days at a time, and you begin to get fatigued as you're on the road, and that'll add like fatigue cards to your deck, and those don't match with anything. So eventually it's almost like you're becoming tired and your brain's not functioning, so you're losing your thought process, so you can't put the words in your mouth that you're looking for. And it's like it's all just so metaphorical to real speech in a way that I didn't think was possible to emulate with a card game. And so I mean, I really enjoyed it. It's a pretty short little game, and we always say it's like a perfect Game Pass game,
Mhm.
which I 100% would recommend to people that do have that. I think it's on PlayStation as well if you wanted to buy it. But I mean, it's just cool. And if you like deck building games too, like we've talked about before a couple episodes ago, how we're kind of getting burnt out on like the Slay the Spire deck building sort of format. Like it's been done a lot, but finding a fresh take on even a deck building game as well was very fascinating, and I wasn't expecting it to be like this when I first started playing too. I totally thought it was going to be like your generic deck builder with like creatures and spells and stuff, but it was totally unexpected what it ended up being, and I had a great time.
That's going on the list. I keep talking such a good game about getting Game Pass, and, like, second I'm done Elden Ring, it's happening. Whatever comes first, actually. If I finish Elden Ring or Silk Song comes out. But I think I really should be able to finish it, in time, but this game is on the list. And a sojourner is a person who resides temporarily in a place. So
Okay,
kind of like
yeah.
a journeyer because you're never in one place too long.
Right, so that makes a lot of
Um,
sense. Yeah, and there's just a lot of characters you meet. I mean, I won't spoil anymore. You can't talk to everyone either, so you are gonna have like a bit of a different experience. But
mhm.
yeah, I'm definitely interested to see what you think when you play this one.
Okay, deal. Well, we'll get back to you on that one.
Cool. All right. Well, I think that brings us to the second half of the show then, which is going to be an extended conversation about a listener mail question that we got a couple of weeks ago from our good friend Jonah. And so maybe we'll start off this segment just with if you wanted to read that question out, and we'll go from there.
Yes. So we really appreciate Jonah, and I think he had a lot of fun with this. At least I hope he did. But he said he wants us. Now, this was actually a suggestion of his for Halloween, so we've sat on this for a little bit of time, and it's Halloween in June now. So,
Yeah,
you know,
everyone knows June Halloween, obviously,
get your candy out. You know, put your Spider-Man costume on,
and
and
just be a good
tell.
sport about it. Okay.
They don't know no tricks, only treats. Um,
I don't know about that.
and he wanted us to build what our Frankenstein game would look like. So we've slightly adjusted it, but the original pitch was you get a set of characters from one game, a story or writing from another game, the mechanics from another, graphics, music, sound, so on. So 5 sources of games. And then you have to put them all together, and it's like the Frankenstein's monster of a game. And then he's added at the bottom, which I am going to be a good sport and read because he's added a note to you, James. Note to James when he reads this question: Katie is not allowed to pick characters from Dark Souls 1, story from Dark Souls 3, mechanics from Bloodborne, etc. I know your tricks. So, as I promised before, it is treats, not tricks, and I have refrained myself from doing that.
Well, you know, the thing is too is like you would have just ended up building a Souls game, and that's not
I
in the
would have just
spirit
built
of building
Elden
a
Ring.
Frankenstein game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And that's not fun. I already have Souls games. I want something else that doesn't exist yet that only I can build out of the misshapen bits of other things.
Exactly.
Um, so that's really exciting. I love this question. It was kind of a hard thought process. And we did end up slightly adjusting it just to give ourselves a little bit more freedom with the games we were making. So what we ended up coming up with was that we were going to have 6 aspects to build the game. So we went with number 1, it's the music. We had number 2, graphics, style, or aesthetic. Number 3, characters. 4 is the story narrative. And then 5 and 6 are 2 different mechanics: mechanic A, mechanic B, just to mix and match a little bit more. And then we also decided we were going to make one game that was just something really funny that we could think of. And then the second one was like a dream game that we actually would really like to play. So I think we're gonna go with the good games first, because Jonah has also given us like a game that he made, which actually sounds really fucking cool. I kind of want to play it.
I'm excited for
Um,
this. I'm very
so
excited for Jonah's idea. And
yeah,
just before we read them out, I just want to remind everybody: please write in your answers. Our email, of course, you know it. We'll remind you at the end of the show. But while we're doing this, put your thinking caps on, everybody, and make your Frankenstein games along with us, because we would love submissions of what comes to your mind.
awesome. Okay, so yeah, before we get in ours, we'll give Jonah's. And he's kind of cheated a little bit too, because he sort of cheated on, so he gave us an outline and then we changed it, and then he changed it for his answer. So we have 3 different things. But he's kind of sort of stuck to it. So he said the graph he skipped music altogether because,
His game's silent.
his game's totally silent, exactly.
He saved
There's
budget on
there's
like sound
no
design.
exactly, there's no audio, no dialogue, no like, atmospheric background sounds. It's just totally like nothing. So he said the graphic and style is going to be Horizon. The
Mm-hmm.
colors, the vibrancy, it's a very detailed, beautiful world. The characters are going to be Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, because apparently I've
Okay.
never played it, but apparently everyone has their own motivations, and they're really good, fully realized characters, even the droids. And there's a great mix of like drama and comedy, which does sound cool and would fit into
Dramedy, as they
Horizon.
say.
Dramedy. Number 4, which put a big smile on my face, is the narrative is Banner Saga. Yes. Which
Okay.
is a depth of choice and meaningful choices, which I'm really proud of. That was a game I recommended to him, so I know he enjoyed it. But also shout out to Mass Effect 2 for like a similar reason.
Mm-hmm.
Then he's added level design, which is kind of a cool thing that we could have put in ours, but we didn't. That's Dark Souls 1, particularly the Firelink loops, which again, I'm very proud of. And then we have the two game mechanics are one is the character progression of Skyrim, which is
Okay.
like when you use the skills, you gain the like perks of points in those skills, which I think is also super cool. We talked about on our level up episode. And then number 7 is the Force Unleashed combat, which is like the Wii motion controls, which like he said were pretty decent at the time, but like, you know, have had a decade and a half to possibly
Yeah, I don't
refine those
know.
things
Going
for
back to those Wii
current.
motion controls, Joan, I don't know about that, but that's a good idea.
I mean, maybe they weren't the most polished, but think about like what, you know, maybe the Switch could do a little bit
Well,
better
it could
now.
be the Wii
So
Motion Plus at least. You know, there's a
Wii
big
Motion
big
Plus,
improvement
yeah,
there.
that's right. You know,
Big
imagine if we got a
improvement.
Joy-Con Plus, so it could work.
Just wait,
Um,
Switch Pro.
what he says, we put this all together. It's an open world single player, maybe limited co-op RPG, and like that actually could be super cool. And as weird as Horizon Star Wars like mashup seems at first, it actually works really well with like the nature slash tech kind of like
I
the
think
marriage
that
of
lines
those two
up.
things.
That lines up
Yeah,
because Star Wars has elements of that too, of like
yeah.
some nature kind of stuff. Like there's those forested planets and all that. Like
Mhm.
it's not all space and tech, so that works. I like that. I like that.
Yeah, I think that's a cool game, and I mean, like, I wanna play Jedi Fallen Order, and this to me kinda just seems like a slightly more fantasy version of
hmm
Jedi
hmm
Fallen Order with, like, a little bit more narrative choice, and that actually sounds really fucking cool.
It does. It does. All right, I would play that one. I would play.
Yeah.
Um, do you want to go first,
Give
or do
me
you want me to give you?
give me
Okay,
your
the best game, right? This is the good game.
the best game, yeah. We'll
Okay.
go our best games, and we'll do our funny games afterwards.
So, okay, so here's my take on this. I kind of based both of my games on what games I wanted to make the best version of themselves. And so,
Okay.
what's the game that we always bag on is never living up to the potential of how cool the world is, Kate?
Oh my god, did you do a Pokemon game?
I made a Pokemon game.
Oh, no. Okay,
So, I'm
interesting.
going to pitch to you the ultimate Pokemon game.
Oh my god, okay.
Starting off, the music is going to
Mhm.
be from SA2B style.
Okay.
It's going to
Oh
have,
my god,
you know what?
yes.
It's going to be
Crush
cool.
40?
Yeah, it's gonna be great because I mean they have a different
Yeah.
varieties, right? Like there's some kind of like cave type of music if you were to be underground. There
Mhm.
is you know, a lot of rock music that I think would work really well for some nice battles and all that. So it could be cool. And I mean, honestly, it's just a killer soundtrack. SA2B.
It
I want to
is.
match it for this, so we'll go with that. The graphic style. Imagine this: you're exploring a Pokemon continent, but it looks just like Ghost of Tsushima with
Yep,
those
yep,
beautiful environments. You know, you're seeing all the different colors in the trees and different plants
yep.
around. Like, man, the water in that game too, beautiful. Lots of water Pokemon out there, guys. Lots of water Pokemon.
Yep.
So I mean, Tsushima's perfect. Now the characters. This is where it gets interesting. The characters are obviously and clearly going to be based off of Monster Hunter, because I'm not talking about the people. I'm talking about the Pokemon.
Yep.
And what's
Yep.
so cool about that is that with Monster Hunter, for those that haven't played, the creatures are so well realized. Like they all have their own behaviors that they go and you know act out, and they have different weak points and different biological sort of parts where it's like, oh, if you cut off its, you know, its wings, it can't fly, or if you cut off this gland it has in its throat, it can't breathe fire anymore. And I think that type of thing would just be make Pokemon obviously on a whole new level. So with the story and the narrative, I'm going with Yakuza because I want there I want there to be a big grand narrative in this exciting Pokemon world. You know, it's very
Mhm.
intense. There might be some death, there might be some killings. You know,
Mhm.
it's a hard realized world. You know, people might do drugs. Like, what if there's a
Right.
Chansey that deals drugs out of its little pouch? But then at the but then at the same time, you're gonna be doing some zany, crazy stuff as well, and like, you know,
Right.
insane people can live in Pokemon worlds as well. So I think that would work just perfectly. Now for the mechanics that I've added to this game to make it just the best. Number one, and this is a little cheating because it's not really a mechanic, but I thought it would be great if it's some place in this Pokemon universe there was like a full Pokemon Stadium suite where you could like go
Yeah.
to the Pokemon Stadium. It could be like, you know, there's university towns where like, you know, it's the campus and
Yeah.
there's housing and all that. Like, this is what if there
Mhm.
was like a stadium town where there was little huts you could go to and you could participate in the mini games and you could do all the different activities from a Pokemon Stadium game, but it's like in a city.
This kinda reminds me of, like an Olympic village, but
Yeah,
yeah,
like
that
just
sounds
like that.
amazing.
Yeah, just like that. And then it's interesting that Jonah had brought up Mass Effect loyalty missions because I thought my second mechanic would be loyalty missions for your Pokemon. And as you grew your bond with them over time, they would sometimes make requests to you and be like, "Oh, there's I'm a Butterfree, and there's a Butterfree in this forest over to the north, and I it's my old love interest, and I'd love to go meet them or something like that." And
I thought you're gonna make us play Bye Bye Butterfree?
yeah,
That's dark.
yeah, like what if one of their loyalty missions was like, "Hey, after we win the Elite Four, I want you to release me into the wild because that's my
Mhm.
life goal." And I just think that that little bit of extra personality would be the cherry on top of what would already be a fantastic game. Um,
This
and yeah,
this
I'm
is so fucking cool. So,
yeah.
is it still like a turn-based RPG, or is it like a Monster Hunter style where, like, you're in an overworld, like, action
Mm.
kind of RPG?
Well, that's a good question that I didn't think about because I ran out of mechanics to add. But I guess what I'm envisioning it as would be um, maybe even like a hybrid. Like I in Pokemon Legends Arceus, it is turn based, but your character can still run around. So it might be
Mhm.
that you're giving orders to your Pokemon, but then the trainer still has things you got to do. Like if you order your Pokemon to use Earthquake, like you got to figure out a way to keep yourself safe because you're about to get trapped in an earthquake or something like that. And
Okay.
so maybe you have to be kind of more strategic with that. I don't know. Or maybe like if you run too far away, your Pokemon can't hear you, and you can't give it orders, and it fights by itself. Yeah, there's tons of possibilities.
This is actually so cool. I would 100% play this game.
Yeah.
Um, and you know what the funny part is that I kind of built the same game, but with some different twists.
Did you do Pokemon too?
I not only okay, so you did Pokemon like serious cool RPG, like Pokemon
Yeah.
at its potential.
Right.
I did that, but made it scary.
Oh, nice.
So in my mind, my mechanic B was Pokemon, and that's where I started. Is like,
Mm-hmm.
what kind of Pokemon game would I want to play? Because I want a cool Pokemon game, and the first thing I thought of was Monster Hunter.
Oh my god.
So my two mechanics were actually Pokemon, as Pokemon are a mechanic,
hmm
and B, like the Monster Hunter. But I went more for like you are not capturing Pokemon and it's not a turn-based RPG. I went more like it's an action RPG and you're fighting the
Okay.
Pokemon.
Okay.
Pokemon are like the monsters that you have to like picture all those like cool artists where they do like scary or like realistic versions of what Pokemon might look like. And there are these like big, like terrifying, like what
Those are
Haunter
awesome.
would actually look like. It's so scary and like, you know, you have actual like Beartic is just a massive fucking bear that wants to kill you. And so it's those Pokemon. And then the second mechanic is the Monster Hunter like weapon crafting and like armor crafting. Because
hmm
if you killed the Pokemon, you could have like, you know, like
Oh
Blastoise
wow,
cannon or
that
something
would be
is an
awesome.
item.
That would be awesome.
And so yeah, stuff like that. I want that part of Monster Hunter. So that's kind of where I started. And I was like, well, where do I go from here? So I, as well, to keep similarities to you, the last similarity I have for you is my graphic style is Ghost of Tsushima because it's just so fucking pretty.
This is unbelievable.
But so I picked Ghost. So the rest of them are different. So as a character, you're playing as the hunter from Bloodborne, just because I wanted Souls combat to be in the game. That's
Sure,
how you fight the scary
of
Pokemon,
course.
and the hunter's, the best character aside from Sekiro. But it's not a rhythm game, so it's just going to be the hunter. And then I wanted the music of Hollow Knight
hmm
because sometimes you'll be going around, there's like some really serene, quiet, beautiful places you'll get to. And then other places are like, the music would swell up for big boss fights. And then sometimes the music is really like foreboding and eerie and creepy because it is a bit scary. And to tie into kind of the horror aspect I've got going is the story and the narrative is going to be from Returnal, because in
Okay, okay.
Returnal, the premise of that game is it's got the time loop stuff going on, but aside from like the cycle restarting over and over again, the premise is that like you crash land on this alien planet and you're trying to figure out how to get home and everything is very hostile to you. So that's kind of like where you are in this scary Pokemon universe. Is like they're all hostile to you. You don't know how you got here. It's kind of a mystery that you got to solve, like where you are, but also you got to stay alive. It's just like you're gonna get your shit kicked out by it. Like a slugma's gonna come along and he's just gonna light you on fire and you're gonna
So
die.
instead of blood vials, do you have like potions you gotta use on yourself
Yeah,
to heal
I
up?
think that would be it. You'd have a potion.
Yeah.
You'd start out with just some like basic weapons that maybe aren't really Pokemon specific, but then like you could get like you could have like a scythe that's like a scyther's claw, or
Right.
like you could have like a big Raticate's tooth as a dagger, and like
Oh
just
damn.
it's just endless how cool
You
some of
could
these Pokemon
you
can
could like
be.
capture fire from a fire Pokemon in like a device and like, use it as a flamethrower with limited ammo.
Yeah, that could be like a spell that you'd have access to. Like,
Yeah.
I just want it's a Souls game, but Monster Hunter mechanics, and you're fighting Pokemon, and
Damn.
Hollow Knight piano's
I
going on in the
mean,
background.
that sounds great too. Maybe there's room for like for our games to somehow be combined and
Yeah.
Frankenstein
Mhm.
themselves together.
That's awesome. I'm so glad we made, like, 2 versions of the same game.
Me
This is
too.
how badly we want Pokemon to
I
be
know,
good.
and like all the ideas you could use. I even thought
Yeah.
like, oh, which studio would I want to make this game? Yeah, I went
Mhm.
that depth. I thought it would be great. Sony Bend already has been announced to working on something new. They have all the
Mhm.
cool weather technology they were using in what's the game? Motorcycle
Oh, Days Gone?
Days Gone. Like they've got it, man.
Mhm.
They could make an open world Pokemon game. Pokemon
I
Company's
hope
not owned by
so.
Nintendo. They just work with them. Like it could happen.
Yeah, and, like, hey, Game Freak, maybe you need a break.
Yeah, right.
Maybe
Give
it's
it to
time
Ben.
to
Just pass it over to Ben.
yeah.
They can make this game. It'll all be good.
That's awesome. Okay, that's so
Okay.
cool. I'm concerned about our I don't think our funny games are gonna be the same, but, like, oh
I,
my god, if they are
I
now.
can guarantee you yours will not be the same as mine. I will tell
Okay,
you about it if you'd like right now.
okay. Please
Okay.
do.
So I'm going to do my best to reveal this in the best order because my funny game isn't
Okay.
necessarily overly funny, but it's going to be really
Uh-huh.
funny for you.
Okay.
So, okay, so my graphic style, I'm starting off. I wanted to change it up with something a little different, and I decided to go with Kenna Bridge of Spirits style because
Okay.
I
Oh,
think that game just
beautiful.
has a beautiful Pixar level design with its characters. Like, I honestly think you could look at that game and you could deceive people into thinking it was a Pixar movie, at least in the
Absolutely.
cutscenes. And so I really wanted to start off with that because I think the best thing about that art style is it just has nothing to do with the rest of the game I've designed at all.
Okay. Alright.
so so the story and the narrative is going to be sort of Phoenix Wright mystery style where you're going around and you're investigating
Oh,
people,
okay.
and it is like I don't think you're going to be a lawyer in this game, but you're going to be going around and like talking to people and sort of solving some mysteries and learning about things that you need to get to the bottom of some details on stuff, right? Very important.
Mm, okay.
So the last thing I can tell you about this game that isn't going to give away what it is that the music is going to be from Contra because I just love Contra
Nice.
and I didn't want to go with Persona or something really generic. And I think that like a modern take on Contra, I mean, there's been modern Contra games and they have great music. It's like the best part. And it's going to be super exciting and high energy, because you're going to be moving around a
Mm.
lot in this game, unlike Phoenix Wright, because because the characters of this game are Tony Hawk and his skater friends from the Tony Hawk skateboarding games.
No! No, why would you do this to me?
And so one thing I didn't mention about the narrative is that because in Phoenix Wright you're always going around like, oh, I'm going to the precinct, I'm going to the I
Yep.
don't know, cafe to investigate. This game, it doesn't
Mhm.
just transport you there, you actually have to skate to each location in between around the city to get where you're going. And so
Right, of
yeah, and
course.
so imagine Tony Hawk is like a Pixar character. Now the two mechanics that I've added. Number one, this game would be very cool to be able to have this game in VR. I think because you could interrogate
Okay.
people and talk to your
Mhm.
friends and like investigate these mysteries as Tony Hawk in first person, like actually being Tony Hawk. It would be even better than
Right,
playing.
you might really
You
feel
know,
like
you could really feel like him. And so that would be a lot of fun. And not only would the interviewing be great, but it would also be really fun to skateboard in VR, as I know you'd really be
Mhm.
interested in doing that.
Wow. I
And
wish there
so
was some way I could experience
I
skateboarding
know,
in
I
real
know, I
life.
know. So the last thing about this game, my second mechanic, and I was just thinking, what could really be added to this game that would make it just the perfect video game for you. And you know what that is, Kate? I'll tell you. It's base building. So as you're skating around as you're skating around the city, pulling off sick, gnarly kick flips and ollies and dark sides, whatever they call them, slides, grinding, you're picking up materials, and you can build your own skate parks around the city, and you can like do tricks as you go around in the skate parks you've made with your custom materials. And it sounds like a lot of fun to me.
I can't believe how you picked 3 good things at the start, and then we're like, I'm gonna ruin this so hard. Like, you've managed to create an absolute like, if you thought Frankenstein's monster was a monster, this game is a monster.
I've even titled this game, actually, because Phoenix Wright.
Okay.
I even really liked it because Phoenix Wright. Phoenix, it's a bird, Kate. It's a bird. Whereas and Tony Hawk, obviously, also named after a bird. So this game is just simply called Phoenix Hawk. It is a combination of the two of them.
I want to be mad at you because it's so cruel and terrible, but like this is amazing.
And
you've made my biggest Halloween scare of all time.
Phoenix Hawk, yeah, maybe June, but this is a Halloween themed question, so there you go. I would love to hear your answer though, because I would love to see what could beat Phoenix Hawk as a video game.
Well, all right. I think my game is maybe funnier for like a general audience, but I don't think it's funnier to me than Phoenix Hawk. But so my game came basically it's based off of a game that I don't know if you've heard of, but it's called Table Manners, a physics-based dating game. And so
I've never heard of that in my life.
Okay, so you should look it up. I actually have it on my wish list because I think it'd be really fun to like play with some friends. But basically the game is like you're going on a first date and you're trying to like impress your date, but
I love where this is going. Like I love where this is going.
But like the controls are like surgeon simulator style, so they're like intentionally really hard to control, and so you have to like impress your date, but you're trying not to like pour her water all over the table when you get her drink, and like you're cutting your food, but you can't do that very well, and so it's intentionally like just a silly dating game. So that's my basis.
That had better come to PSVR too. I'm telling you right now, I need to play this.
It's so good. It keeps going on sale on Steam, and one day I'll buy it. But anyway, so that was where I started. That's mechanic A, your physics-based dating game. And I was like, okay, how do you make this game's already funny? How do you make it funnier? And then it occurred to me, well, maybe you're trying to date a specific character. And the character that you are trying to impress at this first date is Kratos. So he's on the other side of the table now, and he's getting progressively more pissed off with how you were like, you can't cut your steak and you've spilt your drink. And you knock the candles over. Kratos is getting pissed. So the aesthetic of the game is Darkest Dungeon, because secretly it's a pleasant game, but when you do poorly, it kind of starts to become a horror game because Kratos is unimpressed with you. And so I mostly wanted the aesthetic from Darkest Dungeon because I thought the narrator could like narrate how the date is going. So he'd be like, ruin has come to this dinner. And so he'd narrate it. Now the music we've got going is I actually chose Earthbound, which seems like a weird pick. But what I liked about Earthbound was it has some kind of like upbeat, arcadey kind of soundtracks, which is what would play when the date's going well and Kratos is enjoying himself. But when he's
doesn't
not
sound like that's going to happen too often.
When he's not enjoying himself, it would go to the really like they've got a lot of like weird, dark, eerie, like kind of terrifying music, especially like near the end when you're like getting to the like the creepy twists in Earthbound. So that's what we'll be playing, and it would change tracks depending on how the date is going. And so then for story narrative, I wasn't really sure what to pick for this. So I just went on the store page in Steam for like dating games just to see what I could find. And I found a game called Dream Daddy, a dad dating
I've
simulator.
heard of Dream Daddy.
And I thought Kratos is a dad. So maybe there's some relevant overlap. I don't actually know what that would add, but Kratos is a dad and maybe he's your dream daddy to date. So we
I
got
hate
that.
this so much.
And but would you play it?
I mean, yeah, I'd play it. I'd play it for sure.
Yeah, I would too. The final mechanic B, is I was thinking like, okay, we got the dating, like the game's basically complete. Like what kind of thing could you add to it just as like a little bonus? And I thought, you know what would make a lot of sense is if you had loot boxes
That would
and
make a lot of
after every
sense, yeah.
date, yeah, after every date, you like got a loot box and you could like level yourself up and like there'd be a season pass. And then the loot boxes would contain different skins for you. So you could wear like a different outfit to the date that might be more appealing. And then Kratos could also wear different outfits. Like you could get him a little bowler hat maybe in one of the boxes, or like you could unlock like dinner gloves he might wear.
I hate this so much. It's getting worse. It's getting worse because it's now pay to win. Because what if you get an outfit that he likes more in a loot box?
Well, I mean, I think it's,
You're
I
trying to
think he
gouge
kind
the
of
customer. You're trying to gouge them for loot box money,
like,
Kate.
like you gotta impress him. And if it costs $20 to impress him, it costs $20 to impress him.
This sounds like a mobile game to me. I don't know about this.
Look, maybe they don't have to actually give you stats, but maybe just fun for you to show up in like a different, like I'm wearing
Yeah,
my green dress tonight. Kratos
for
might like
sure.
this.
This is very fun, yeah. Wow.
It's a little bit of extra RP you could add to the game, right?
What a little bit of flavor, Yeah.
Yeah.
God damn. You know what's so funny about that is I feel like that game would actually sell really well on Steam. Like people would want to play
So
that.
funny. I feel like the team at Santa Monica might greenlight this if someone were to give them some money to make it,
I'm
because like how funny would it be to like dating Kratos, but he's like always having the worst fucking time.
And then in the sequel it's like Kratos comes with Atreus, so it's like he's got a date, he's like a single dad. It like adds another element, like can you impress Atreus?
Right. Yeah.
Because the kid's
He's gonna
important.
go home and he's gonna go home and be like, so Atreus, what did you think of them? And then
Give me your honest opinion,
he says,
son.
yeah, and he's like, boy, tell me. And if he's unimpressed, like, maybe he doesn't go with you again.
I love it, Kate. I love this.
Thank you.
I don't know if you did, but I had like one other idea I never threw together, which I just thought would be a really cool one for like the cool game that I wanted to bring up and share. What I just thought, like the first thing that came to my mind was like a battle royale game like Fortnite, where they have like just characters from everything, but the characters actually behaved like themselves. They weren't just skins. So whenever someone got added, like Kratos is in the game, like he's just the strongest Kratos, and whoever you're fighting, like they have to just figure it out. And the other characters could be like, Homer Simpson might be there, and like how the hell is he gonna beat Kratos? You got to figure it out. But I just think that could
He's
get
not.
kind of ridiculous. But
That is
like
super
that was
cool.
like my honorable mention. I don't know if you had any to close us out of that. No.
Honestly, like I did the funny game first because like I just came to me in like a fever dream I had, and then the good game was like, hey, come on, it's Souls Pokemon Monster Hunter.
Oh
like,
yeah, so easy. My other my other game, which I thought would be like the funny game, which I quickly backed off of, was that it was like Mario Party, but the mini games become full games of other party games. So like you play a 10-turn match at Mario Party, but then the first turn you land on like, oh, Quiplash. And so you have to play like a whole game of Quiplash and then see who wins, and that's the mini game.
That would actually be like, you'd have to set aside like a full fucking day to play that game. But honestly, that would be so much fun.
Wouldn't it? Yeah, right. Or it could be like a lot of things too. Like anything multiplayer really could be in this Mario
it's
Party
like,
game.
it's like stop and like you have to get a copy of Pictionary that you own at your house and like just play Pictionary for an hour.
Exactly. It would be great.
I love
The most
it.
time-consuming game ever made in the history of video games. Oh man, this has been fun. I'm so happy Jonah wrote this question in. Yeah,
Yes, thank you.
fantastic stuff, Jonah. Thank you so much. And if you want to be like Jonah and give us an excellent listener mail question such as this one, again, last time you can send this to circlesandsquarespod@gmail.com, or get in touch with us on Twitter @CNSPod. And even if you don't have a question, please send your Frankenstein games into us, because this has been hilarious, especially if you can make something funny. So again, the categories, if you want to do it, is music, graphics and aesthetic, characters, story and narrative, and then 2 mechanics that you want to put in the game. Whatever that means to you, just send it in and let us know, because this is great. And we'll definitely read out any responses on a future show. But anyway, that's going to close us out for this week. So thank you very much for joining us and hanging out with us to talk about games as always. We'll be back next week to talk about the news, which I guess will include our recap of the Xbox Bethesda showcase, which we missed the deadline for last time, as well as whatever else happens between now and then. So look forward to that one, everybody. And until next time, take care of yourself, and we'll see you soon.